Hi, welcome to my next video. This time I wanted to show you something a bit unusual. I did this whole piece just as an experiment to see if I can produce something decent looking using different tools than usual. As you probably know, I use a lot of digital tools in my work. I paint a lot in Procreate on my iPad, but also I used to use a lot of Photoshop on my PC. Of course, these awesome digital tools give me the ability to copy and paste and edit and make my art faster and more efficiently, and also to fix stuff until it looks more or less like the idea I had in my head. But on the other hand, because of these abilities, because of the ability to copy and fix and paste, I tend to get bogged down in small little details and adding more details and fixing and reworking until some of the pieces get stiff and lose their natural kind of looseness and spontaneous feeling that, on the other hand, traditional tools give me. So it's easier for me to get this loose feeling using my pencils or watercolors or color pencils. But of course they have the minus of not being really good for fixing things and adjusting things. Once something is painted with watercolors or my waterproof ink, I cannot edit it anymore. I can fix some things digital later on my computer, but some things of course are unfixable and I would have to do at least this part of the piece again and put it together in the computer, or I would have to do the whole piece again. Of course, the animation industry in Japan has a history of going around this problem with using poster colors. So a medium that is similar to watercolors and gouache in the terms of being kind of loose and nice and painterly, but also allowing for fixing some mistakes, even big ones, if it's necessary. And some other studios, of course, use digital painting like we used to use with Your Name. And trying to just get this more painterly and loose style by doing, I don't know, less squarish lines and using more rounder, bigger brushes and so on. So they kind of approach the problem from two directions. I think that in my case, I enjoy painting with traditional media more. I feel less tired after a long session of doing watercolors, for example, than with painting with Procreate. I think this varies from person to person, but I feel more inspired and energized when I have my sketchbook in front of me and I have some new, I don't know, traditional tools to test and watercolors to use. I had a time when digital media were also inspiring like this for me. When I started doing digital painting, I was just experimenting a lot and testing applications and just going loose on all the options that were available for me. But in the end, I just use few really simple brushes that I created myself. I don't use many of the advanced options that a painting application has. Actually, a painting application like Procreate, which is really simple and has just the basic things, is enough for me if it's fast and efficient. In the end, the digital kind of lost its appeal, and even the simplest traditional tools like color pencils still have the ability to positively surprise me and make me create art that I was not really aware I would be able to create. So it's this positive feedback and these positive little accidents and positive randomness that still holds a huge appeal for me, and so I enjoy painting and creating with traditional media a lot. And it also tires me less than digital. So I thought, okay, what I can test next in my kind of traditional tool shed, what I can mix and match to make my traditional art even more kind of varied and interesting. And the main problem I face in traditional art is the line art. I can use gouache, I can use acrylic gouache, I can mix poster colors with watercolors, and this gives me the flexibility that animation studios use, the flexibility to fix stuff. But the line work is still a problem for me. I try to use fountain pens with waterproof ink, which proves to be kind of too hard and too defined. So I try inks that are not black, like blue or gray, which works well. I even try more exotic tools like a glass pen with various colored inks that I can use for various parts of a picture. In the end, I think I like pencil a lot for lines. It gives me the flexibility of the line being thicker and thinner and more pronounced and less pronounced in places that I want it to. I can make things that are in the distance a bit lighter and things that are in front, in the foreground, with thicker lines that are just more pronounced and blacker and just crisper. But of course, the pencil has its limitations because the softer pencils don't work so well with watercolors. They tend to lose these really small particles of the graphite inside that mix with lighter watercolors and make colors dull. And also, they don't have colors. They are only gray and a bit of the graphite has a bit of shininess to it that makes it difficult to control sometimes. So I thought, okay, let's use color pencils, non-water soluble color pencils for the lines, and then let's use watercolors on this, but let's do it in this style of just animation backgrounds. So I will wet the whole paper before painting and then do some really wet on wet passes of watercolors, so the whole thing is kind of nice and blurry and has nice textures and color transitions. Then I'll add some details with watercolors wet on dry and with gouache. So I'll mix gouache and poster color, white poster color with watercolors to get some nice opaque details. And then I'll again go back to color pencils, but this time a bit softer ones to add the last touch of details that are needed there. This gives me the ability to fix some mistakes. This gives me the ability to be more flexible in the way I'm painting. I don't have to be so accurate like with only watercolors because I already have the line work. I can fix some things later with the gouache. At the same time, I have a lot of this softness and looseness in this picture because, well, I'm using color pencils for the lines, so I can vary the colors and pressure when I'm doing the lines, so I can get nice distance effects and use different colors of lines for things that are in light and things that are in shadow and darker things and metallic things and wood and so on. And also I'm doing the first pass with watercolors on really wet paper, which just makes everything kind of soft and loose by default. And then I can just pinpoint the places where I need more crispness and more details, especially in things in foreground and like buildings and mechanical things. But I can keep for example, trees and the river and so on a bit more on the looser side and don't put so much details there. So I thought I would test this method of painting to see if I can make it in a reasonable amount of time and with reasonable amount of effort and still have something that looks like a finished nice painting or illustration at the end. This picture took me 2 days of work from the small thumbnails that I started with, like the pencil ideas that I had. I'm not using any reference here, just some pictures of bridges and trucks to have something interesting in the picture, but the whole thing is a made up place. So it took me about 1 day to do the thumbnail sketches and the pencil sketch, and then drawing the lines on the watercolor paper using a tracing table. The second day I spent on the watercolors and adding final details with the pencils on top of the watercolors. For the line work I used Faber Castell Polychromos pencils, which gave me nice, crisp but also colorful lines. I like how these pencils worked on the hot pressed watercolor paper, and what's the best is that I could use a lot of water without smudging them at all, which was really good. For the watercolors I used my usual Mijello Mission Gold watercolor set because it had the vibrant, really saturated colors I was looking for in this piece. And for the places that I had to use opaque paint, I mixed them with just white poster color paint. In the end I added some details using color pencils again, but this time I switched to the CARANDACHE Supracolor 2 soft color pencils. I was not able to use them for the main lines because these are water soluble color pencils, so if I put a lot of water on them they will just kind of disappear and melt away. But just because these are softer from the Faber Castell pencils that I use, these are great for adding details on top of paint, so on top of watercolor paint and even on top of poster color gouache paint. Even in places where there was a layer of paint already, I was able to get some sharp details with these pencils. I didn't want to put too much in, so I did things like some branches on the sakura tree and some details of the woodwork on the bridge. Adding some details in the foreground helped a bit also with showing the distance. Overall, I liked this experiment a lot. I liked the result also, but not everything was perfect. The paint was really hard to control on the wet paper and it just went everywhere. And also I had problems with the contrast between the buildings on the right and the river embankment elements in the foreground. So I had to do some post-production there in Photoshop to show this contrast a bit better. The main point is though that I had a lot of fun painting this, and I hope you also had fun watching this video. So I think I'll be doing more experiments like this to perfect and explore this style a bit more. Okay, that's it. As always, feel free to comment, share and subscribe, and you can also support me on Patreon. Your support there allows me to do these videos. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye!